Welcome to Game Changers with Molly Fletcher, where we take you behind the scenes with peak performers to learn what makes them tick and discover how you can apply their lessons to your life. I'm your host, Molly Fletcher. Today's episode is a story of love, faith, and resilience that plays out like a Hollywood movie script. Maya Moore was at the pinnacle of her basketball career. 4 WNBA championships, WNBA MVP, 6-time All-Star, 2 Olympic gold medals, 2 college championships, when she left it all behind to fight an injustice. That journey for justice turned into a remarkable love story when Maya married the man she helped free from prison, Jonathan Irons. In their new memoir, Love and Justice, Maya and Jonathan open up about the trials and tribulations they faced together and the love that emerged. In our conversation today, we talk about living out your purpose and finding strength in our connection to others. Let's get right into this incredible story. Here's my conversation with Maya Moore Irons and Jonathan Irons. So real quick, Maya and Jonathan, thank you so much for taking time to jump in. I know you're busy with book tours and changing and making changes and making great impact on the world. So thank you for coming on. You know, to understand your story and how your stories eventually came together, I'd love first for maybe each of you to share a little bit about your early years, how you grew up, and at what point did your lives intersect to where it is now?
I grew up below the poverty line, you know, with just a family trying to clean together and trying to survive. And you know, my grandmother, she used to be a post office worker, and she made a retirement check and took care of, at one point, like 25 kids at that house.
Wow. Wow.
She would shop through coupons, and she would have like people have a wad of cash. She would have a wad of coupons that she would go around and make some of the best meals ever off of that. And then I grew up without a father. I don't know he could be sitting right next to me and I wouldn't know it was him. And so I had that hole in my heart. And on top of that, like I found peace with some of my friends growing up with some of them. I was basically kind of like a little street kid for a little while, just trying to survive. But I learned real fast that, you know, that wasn't good. I had joined the gang, but we weren't like the gangs that you see normally, like in California. We were more like a club of guys that just kind of hung out. But apparently, you know, people looked up on our group and kind of frowned on it, and like we became a target of police. And one thing led to another. You know, a crime happened. And because I was in that area, they zeroed in on me and ignored all of the evidence to the contrary. Mm-hmm. And I ended up in prison serving a total of 65 years. That's where I met Maya, yeah.
And so, Maya, tell me a little bit about that. I mean, you would go and visit him. At what point did it turn to something deeper?
So, yeah, I met Jonathan when I was a senior in high school. My great uncle, when Jonathan was just shortly into his wrongful conviction, my great uncle, through a choir program, a volunteer program, met Jonathan. They formed a relationship, and my uncle just really saw something in Jonathan and encouraged him. Jonathan, as you'll read more in the book, just basically became a part of our family, and we met in the visiting room at Jefferson City Correctional Center. I had heard a few things about his story, about his wrongful conviction, and I was very intrigued and just wanting to, encourage and get to know this person who was fighting for his freedom. And our friendship started there.
And Maya, you grew up a basketball phenom, and basketball was your life, right? It was your purpose in so many ways, wasn't it? For so long. Get me inside of your youth a little bit, in your childhood.
My mom, being a single parent, raising me, needed something for me to do. So she put me in structured, organized things with the advice of my great aunt, and I started playing basketball. And around age 8, it became my favorite. I remember realizing that around 3rd grade, my personality just fit the game. Just you're always moving, offense, defense, and you're playing with other people. I was very social, and it was kind of hard for me to focus at times because I just loved running around. But I eventually learned how to focus and dial things in. And around age 12, I started to really take off and become even better. And by the time I was 13, I was part of a national championship team. And so I also, in the midst of that, my faith had become my own right in that middle school time. And so I have a unique and helpful aspect to my journey in that my identity was already being formed and shaped as a child of God before it was shaped as an elite basketball player. And so I never really struggled with that confusion of like my identity is my performance and different things like that. I wanted to do well. I'm achievement driven. But as far as my identity, thankfully that wasn't one of my struggles. I have other struggles, but that wasn't one of them. But I definitely became very committed to the game of basketball, and every door that was opened, I almost I was able to walk through. So it was an unexpected upward trajectory, but that's where it went.
But Maya, it's so cool to hear you say that about your identity not being that of a basketball player, because I was an agent for almost 20 years, and that is often a real struggle for professional athletes and for athletes in general, and for others in life in general. And so when you can park that to the side and know that it's just what you do, but it isn't who you are, I'm sure at some level it made it easier to walk away, which you have recently announced. Jonathan, I want you to just share maybe a little bit about your case, right? For those of us who may not be familiar, those of the listeners who might not be, because until you really hear your story and hear you talk about it and understand the system, it's really difficult to understand how this could happen. And it breaks my heart. I'm so glad you're sitting where you are now, but could you share that a bit?
I mean, there's so many different rabbit holes and dips and valleys and details and layers of this. I'll try to be pretty simple and streamlined as possible. So Stanley Stotler is the victim. He comes home from work one day and his home gets burglarized. And in the process, he gets shot and the person leaves. He calls 911. He said it was a black guy that shot him, but doesn't give any details. I was in the neighborhood at the time and I had a gun, but the gun that I had, it was not the gun that shot Stotler at all. It was like a totally different type of gun. And I had got it from a guy who tried to rob me because I was selling marijuana behind a gas station near my grandmother's house. So there were multiple black men in the neighborhood that were unidentified. But the police zeroed in on me because I was on the list of like a grab bag list of juveniles that they were basically rounding up and harassing. Like they would gaffle up. They took us up. They took us way out in a country area that basically if you were black, you shouldn't be in at nighttime, and would just drop us off. Like, and we weren't the only ones that they did that to. So Stolly gets shot, goes to the hospital, and the police, they're convinced that it's me because I'm in the neighborhood and they want to focus on me. Even though they find evidence to the contrary along the way, but that evidence, some of it disappeared. And we didn't find it till almost 16 years later. While he's in the hospital, they go to Stotler and they ask him, he said, "Hey, can you identify the person who shot you?" He says, "No." He said, "Well, are you sure?" He's like, "Yeah, I can't identify the person who shot me." He said, "Well, give me your best guess." One of the detectives in the case, like, literally asked him to take his best guess. Ugh. My picture was number 3 on a 6-pack, and it was blown up noticeably larger than the rest of them. We had an eyewitness expert examine the case, and he said himself, he said, "This is a perfect case of how not to collect eyewitness identification evidence. It could be a case study. It was that bad."
And he also selected 2 faces, not just...
Yeah, he guessed. He chose number 3 and 6. Totally different.
Wow.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. There's so many different details. Yeah.
Right.
So I'm in prison, just like lost.
Sure.
And thinking like, man, maybe somebody's going to come in and say he didn't do it, or we made a mistake, but that never happened. There were no fingerprints, no footprint evidence, no nothing. There was no DNA, nothing. There were alibi witnesses in my case that were never called. They proved that it was impossible for me to be in two places at once. I mean, it's just so many different crazy things. But here I am. I wasn't really educated, and I didn't really understand. I remember the first time I read a case, a guy had told me, say, man, your freedom's in this book. And read it. It was Brady v. Maryland. And I had it on my lap, and one thing led to another, and I was out, and I had drool all on the book, and I was so discouraged. But then I just continued to kept reading and everything, trying to figure out. So in the process, I learned law and continue to study my case and figure out what had happened. And then in the meantime, we started to find some of the evidence that was hidden. And one of the most significant ones was a fingerprint record that proved that an unidentified subject was at that house because of the position of where the fingerprint was on the house. But they didn't tell us that. They lied and said they sent it to the highway patrol and that all of them belonged to the victim. But that was not true. They even said it on our trial. So we find that, and I'm writing thousands of letters to different people asking for help, trying to figure out. I had the Innocence Project. They worked on my case. I went through 3 directors with them. They just swamped and got a lot going on. A pro bono law firm took my case, but just a lot to it. So I started getting better and better and better. And then there was a website that was found that the lead detective in our case was bragging on the internet about planting evidence at crime scenes, like literally bragging about shooting at other cops, just all type of crazy. But he thought it was hidden because the internet was new back then. Nobody was really paying attention to that, but we found it. We started talking to all the alibi witnesses. We started getting our evidence together. And then Maya, after we didn't get a lot of traction, with the team of people that we assembled. And so Maya was like, hey man, put me in the game. Let me help. I was like, all right, so we got to blow this up in the media. We got to get a specific set of lawyers.
Yeah. Fast forward. This is like 10 years. Yeah. Like 10 plus years.
And you'd been visiting him in prison, Maya, for inside of those early years also?
Yeah. So when I met him in 2007 through my godparents started a rhythm of visiting him every
weekend, sometimes 2 and 3 times a weekend,
and just became family and just wanted to support him. And Jonathan would in turn just encourage and support them. He became a big brother to my god brothers, like just really a part of the family. And so our friendship just continued to build. And I would try to come visit when I went back to Missouri. Once I moved away from Missouri with my mom, we would still go back and visit that family that I grew up with. And so when I'd go visit them, I'd go visit Jonathan.
The person who found the phone was Reggie Williams, which is Maya's goddad. Like he went down there and found it. They thought he was the FBI. They was like, sir, you the FBI? They didn't want to let him in the building. And then he didn't say what he wanted. It's like, okay, well, what are you looking for? He's like, I don't know what I'm looking for. I'm just trying to see the records, man. And they brought it out. And then he noticed it. And he was like, So we had this form almost 10, 15 years before we could use it. Yeah, it was that long.
The form that ended up exonerating him.
Yes.
Gosh.
The piece of evidence that was hidden. Yeah. It's called a Brady violation. Yeah. When the prosecution does not show the defense all of the evidence available. Yes. That's not fair. And that doesn't give the jury an accurate picture of what's happening. And so this unidentified fingerprint showing that there was potentially someone else that was there and committed the crime would have been a huge, it's called exculpatory evidence that would have been a huge factor in the jury's decision-making process. And so we found this evidence. Reggie found it in 2007, and Jonathan wasn't exonerated until 2020, which shows you how long and hard it is in our justice system to exonerate an innocent person. Yeah. It's much harder to convict a guilty person than it is to exonerate an innocent person. Yeah. We have to continue to move forward in reforming the system so that doing the right thing and bringing justice is not self-sabotaged. And that's something that we end up talking about through our nonprofit. We have a nonprofit that we started 5 years ago called Win with Justice. And it is focused on those leaders in power, namely prosecutors, who influence justice probably more than anybody in the justice system, because they set the charges, they bring the charges.
And they do it with like absolute immunity.
Right.
Like, they can literally get away with knowingly putting on false evidence or false witness in a testimony.
Which happened.
In a trial. They can allow this testimony to go on the stand and not have to correct it and not be held accountable for it.
So it's, Jonathan's case had so many wrongdoings. And we know, prosecutors have a responsibility, a big responsibility. It's not an easy thing, but it is a doable thing to be transparent and to try to approach each situation with a restorative justice lens. And we want people through Win with Justice to learn how that can happen, whether that's being a more informed voter, because we vote for prosecutors. Who knew? I didn't know growing up. I had no idea what a prosecutor was and what they did. I was very disconnected.
I didn't know it till like 15 years in prison after studying in the library every day.
Yeah.
I didn't know it. I was
knowing,
these people get voted in.
Yes, knowing our power and our responsibility, we can do something, which is encouraging. So Win with Justice is a place that helps encourage people to get educated and equipped on how to engage better, but also just trying to cast vision of who we can become as a community, and the beauty that can happen when we do approach it from a humanizing place and not just trying to get a win, trying to get a conviction, without looking at it with a certain spirit as you do it. And there's this really cool aspect on the website now where we show one of our new partners called For the People, and they have this program that's building momentum across the country called prosecutor-initiated resentencing. And so sometimes you have these cases where people were over-sentenced or something went wrong.
Right.
And they have the ability, the prosecutors, to initiate, let's check some balance. Let's add some checks and balances to the situation and review it again. And so that's super encouraging. And so we just want to give people hope of there is change can happen.
Yeah.
There are smart, dedicated, compassionate people, trying to do some things. And we just want to point people to some of those resources.
And also share our story, because it puts, puts blood and bones to a story. Like, it's us, it happened to a real person.
Hi there, it's Molly. I've got some exciting news to share. I'm thrilled to announce I've launched my first ever on-demand course, Up Your Game. Unlock the drive to fuel next level success. Have the past few years left you burned out and stretched thin? Despite your success, you're capable of more. Maybe you've lost your purpose and that inner fire to pursue your dreams. If so, you are not alone. So many of us have been there. As a top sports agent for 15 years, representing and working with the best of the best, I've seen and helped countless people unlock their drive to accomplish great things and finally live out their dreams. That's why I've crafted a brand new on-demand course to help you unlock your potential to fuel next level success. In my new course, Up Your Game, I share the critical 8 keys that you absolutely must use to get unstuck and to finally realize your fullest potential. This course, it's not inspirational fluff. It gives you action guides so that you can apply it to your life and take action right now. So are you ready to up your game? Sign up for my new course today at mollyfletcher.com/course. That's mollyfletcher.com/course. I can't wait for this course to change your life in incredible ways. Check it out. My, you're going and visiting Jonathan and pouring into him, and at some level, falling in love with him at some point. And all the while, the championships at the college level, at the WNBA level, overseas, MVPs, Olympic gold medals, and all the things you did on the court. And as a sports agent, I know how well athletes can departmentalize, right? Which it appears that you did. But hearing this story, this is a different level. How did you maintain the focus and the level that you did on the court through all of this?
That's a great question.
It's a big question right there.
It was a miracle, everyday miracle.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that we talk about very honestly in the book, Love and Justice, is our walk with God, and that relationship being the foundation of how we did everything that we did.
Mm-hmm.
And just, one of the hearts and the themes of the book is relationship, and how we are designed and created to be in relationship with our Creator, with each other, with nature, like just everything being connected and in right relationship and whole and beautiful. Like that's the goal, right? Like it's a challenge because, we're in a broken part of the story, but we can still move towards that wholeness, that love, that being connected. And so we share that with people of like trying to cling to God in these hard things, trying to move every day,
mm-hmm.
and being faithful, trying to do the best that we can to love, and to be well, and to be self-sacrificing when it calls for it, because that's what love does, right? That's what Christ did, self-sacrificial love for the good of humanity. And so that's our model, that's our inspiration, that's our power. But it's hard. Like there's no other way through it but it being hard. And so every day we had to not run away from the pain, but acknowledge it, but then give it to God, and grieve things that are worth grieving, but then get up and keep fighting. Like that's something Jonathan just models so well, is just deal with the pain, but you got to keep moving. And I just try to engage with the pain in safe ways. I think that's where more of my compartmentalizing came. It's like right now in the middle of this game, I'm not going to think about this because I have to focus and be here for my team.
Yeah.
But when I have moments alone and I can engage in some of these hard things, I will. But then there came a point where the amount of energy and commitment that it was taking for me to be what I wanted to be for my team, I was just finding like I can't give all of myself to this and to the things that I'm committed to in other relationships, and wanting to be more rooted at home and creating space for these very deep things that we were doing. I ended up stepping away from pro sports in the spring of 2019. I needed to get well. I needed to rest and recover and get organized and ready for the next few years that were coming of fighting for Jonathan. He as we know, became such an expert in law from inside of prison, and drafted his own petition, his own habeas petition that ended up winning his freedom. He drafted it. And then in combination with his lawyers, they submitted it in the winter of 2018. And again, because of the state of Missouri trying to slow and delay justice at every point, it took a year and a half for him to walk out of those doors.
Yeah.
So it was just one of the most discouraging experiences of my life. And I saw it firsthand. I was a firsthand witness to when the spirit of the law is perverted and what can happen to human beings when you do that. Every day I had to be in deep on my knees praying for God to help me. Jonathan 10 times worse because he's in prison. It's not, just going through your life. But how sweet it was when he did walk out.
Maya, I'm curious, when you walked away in 2019 and now have officially retired, did you have any doubt? Get me inside of your head and heart there. Because I think what's interesting, Maya, I believe that our purpose in life can shift. I think yours is certainly your faith and being a steward of that, obviously. But, you had a strong sense of purpose as a basketball player. But you did about everything you can do on the basketball court. So I would imagine in your head and heart, you're thinking, I've got more to do. And your purpose shifted at some point, I would imagine. Tell me about that.
It's a long story because it happened over many years. It was a gradual, realization of where I needed to go. And the older I got, the more my perspective grew, the more I matured in my walk with the Lord and getting, I think, a clearer picture of how he was calling me to be in his kingdom and grow the beauty of his kingdom, like I was talking about earlier, through those relationships, like trying to restore and build those beautiful relationships in all aspects of life. I was realizing my humanity and that I am limited and I can only do so much. Despite popular belief of you can do it all, you cannot. And that's one of the most loving things you can tell someone. Is you cannot do it all. But what you can do is what you were created to do very well. And if you try to do it all, then you don't leave room for other people to step in and do their thing. It's like you see it in sports. It's like one player cannot do it all. It's not beautiful when that happens. It's beautiful when you see things, vibing and gelling and working together and flowing and everybody doing their thing and, sacrificing so someone else can do it. Like, that's the beautiful thing that compels us. And so I was noticing that in my life of like, I'm trying to do too much and I need to figure out what it is I'm supposed to be doing right now in this season of life. And so once I got clarity about that, that wasn't hard. The hard part was just, how do I do this transition in a way that's loving? Do it in a way that's loving, do it in a way where I'm respecting the space that I'm leaving and also committing to the space I'm coming into well. But at the same time, I was like, I've never done this. I've never seen anybody do this. I don't have any roadmap. I'm trailblazing again into a new space. But I did the best that I could. I have a group of people that, walk with me in life and I, good support. And I think it turned out really well. It was hard, but it turned out really beautiful.
Well, that's what matters. And I would imagine at some level, I used to always tell my athletes, right, don't read the paper. Stop reading the headlines. And you probably had to put earmuffs on and say, this is what I'm called to do now. And I'm going to step into that. And I'm not going to worry about what the world and others think about it.
Yeah, part of my personality is I don't really engage in a lot of different voices. I don't think it's huge. Good for my well-being. So I didn't really struggle with that. Like most of the time I've got like some other family or friends, they'll keep up with things just to kind of make sure nothing's getting out of control. But I'm just living my life, talking to people I actually live life with who know me and whose voice would really matter because they know me and their opinion matters because they actually know me. But at the same time, I know I have a platform to speak to people I don't know and impact them. And I want to do that well. And people matter, even if I don't have a relationship with them. And so from my vantage point, a lot of the feedback, once people realized the massive battle we were in with Jonathan, were super supportive and were digging in with us. I remember the change.org petition we did.
Yeah, that was a lot of signals.
Campaign for Jonathan's freedom. And like, what was it? Over 200,000 people.
It was more than that.
Put their name down saying, we believe in Jonathan. And it's like, wow, like the support was really positive, even though there's people like, when are you coming back? And, which is just respect, I think.
Yeah,
me.
Sure.
And so it wasn't as bad as people might have imagined from my experience. But again, I wasn't on Instagram and Twitter every day. What are people talking about?
Yeah, you
I don't work that way. But I'm grateful for the voices that I do have in my ear because they're steady, they're mature, and they're for me and for Jonathan. And it's been such a blessing to have that support because it's hard to find good support, right? Like it's not the norm, unfortunately, but
it's so important though. I believe we all have to have people around us who want nothing at all from us except for us to be the best version of ourselves. And it sounds like you have that, Maya, and that is absolutely a gift and a blessing. And it's so great to hear. A lot of people struggle to find their purpose, their calling. What words would you give them?
I would say, don't give up and just keep searching and pray and ask for guidance, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding on how to live out your purpose. That's what I'd say.
We are now parents.
No, JJ.
Well, that's our purpose right now. Being mom and dad.
We have a little guy.
Yeah.
He's almost 1, which I'll cry about that later. He has definitely influenced our purpose and thinking about purpose more. And just, I think purpose, like I was saying earlier, we're created for relationship. We're created to become more of who we are, discover more of who we are, how we're wired, how we're gifted, and then try to cultivate that in each other and ourselves. And it all fits together in this big family team that is humanity. And again, just with our creator and taking care of the earth and enjoying the earth and eating well and enjoying animals and nature. Like, we love doing that. It's very restorative. It's very healing, as we've been trying to heal. But I think, if you can help heal some of these broken things, that's a big part of purpose, and just figuring out how your heart beats towards that effort of healing everything around you. And a lot of that means just being yourself and being authentic and just living in truth.
Yeah.
Try not to be fake. Try not to put on. To be real.
Absolutely.
That's how you heal a lot of things. It's just being in truth, like being truthful, and that brings a lot of healing. But figure out how you're wired and your gifts, and try to cultivate those, and seeing how that can contribute towards restoring broken relationships and broken systems, and it doesn't have to be in this massive scale. It just has to be where you are.
Absolutely.
And that's what we were hoping to tell people too. It's like, it doesn't, everybody's not going to be me. Everyone's not going to be Jonathan, but it's still the same posture of just do something where you're at towards healing and life and restoration.
That's right.
And you'll find great meaning. Like, waking up every day will be much easier when you feel like your life is moving towards restoring something and healing something.
And helping somebody else.
Yeah. Like, you feel more human.
It's like that country song, People Are Good, right? And I think people's purpose, often when you really get down to it, it's about others. And it's about what we can do for others. And I love the book, by the way. People need to get it and read it and dig into it, because it's really powerful. And, Jonathan, in the book, you describe many ways that prison dehumanizes people. What gave you hope and light? Your faith, I imagine, was the absolute central root and truth to it every single day, every moment of every day. You had some, I can't even imagine, tough days, tough moments, tough years. What gave you hope even in sort of some of those dark, tough moments?
Well, I'll say 2 things. One, I was able to see God's encouragement in my life. I could feel it. I can sense it. And it was in a way that probably nobody else would understand. But he just somehow kept me going, by his grace. And another thing that helped take away the sting is what we've been talking about. Like, I started to help counsel other guys, new guys that would come into prison. I would speak to them and give them knowledge and insight and counsel of how to stay out of trouble, what they need to focus on. I would get them in the gym. I would work out with them. I would play ball with them. And people that were having issues with the cases, I got so good at law and studying it and writing it. I was able to start helping other prisoners. I got some of their time cut. I would help them resolve warrants and just different issues, and just help them get resources, like stuff that they need, like food stamps, and set it up, help their parents or their family out to help them. I worked in the hospice program where, I helped make it easier for guys to pass into the next realm, which is not easy, man, dying in prison. I got into the dog program. I got myself involved in everything that I felt like gave me life. I was restoring something or restoring people or just creating balance. I stayed connected with society through Reggie and Sherry and Maya, and just people in my life that was outside. You Flowers, they would tell me about things, tell me about technology. And when I went in, they had beepers, and when I came home, they had these cell phones that I knew nothing about. But I heard about it, and I had like an idea because I would hear people talking about it. I remember when Siri first came out, I was on the phone asking Siri, "How old are you, Siri?" I was like, "Wow!" And I would go tell my buddies. They was like, "Man, for real?" I was like, "Yeah."
That's
Being in
awesome.
prison is kind of like being in the Stone Age, But and I lived in two places. I lived in the law library and I lived in the chapel. Both those places gave me peace and freedom. I probably read enough paperwork to fill a room from top to bottom, just different things and different books and things like that. And I had this mindset, and I wasn't going to let go of it no matter what, is to prepare for when I get out, not if I got out. So
Awesome.
that kept me going.
Yep. What's it been like adjusting, Jonathan, to life outside? I mean, I can't imagine. I would imagine there's been some challenges inside of that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, like, friends, everybody needs friends, believe it or not, whether you want to admit it or not. It's not good to be a loner. I lived in solitary confinement for a while. Isolation is not good. So I have met friends when I got out that I have really strong relationships now, but I left a whole bunch, and that hurt. It's kind of like getting locked up again, but I couldn't go see them.
Mm-hmm.
Guys that I knew for 15, 20 years, we were trauma bonded in a way. That's a whole another form of brotherhood. And also, prison is a place where you have to keep your head on a swivel, and you have to see things in your sleep, basically. See danger. Like it lurks everywhere. And I came home like wanting to sit with my back to a wall so I can see everything. Hyper vigilant. I would have nightmares where I'm wrestling and fighting in my sleep, probably because I'm too hot or whatever. And sometimes I think I need Maya a couple times in the middle of the night. She's like, oh, I messed up her sleep.
I'm used to getting some bumps.
Hey, she knows how to handle a little physical. She could take you.
I've had to go to counseling, just to kind of talk through some of the things, because there's so many different things that I did not talk about because I had to compartmentalize. I mean, you have to do that in there in order to survive, because trauma and frustration and heartbreak and setback and failure and you name it comes at you in a fire hose fashion, and you basically have to just pick and choose what you have to deal with, and the rest of it you just got to fill it up to where you can go back and deal with it later on and not focus on it. So coming out here, I've had to learn how everything works. I had to learn how to use a phone, which now I'm able to teach people how to use a phone. I've learned about technology. Maya taught me a lot about a phone, which was really good. She gave me a lot of help with that. I've started a dog training business, which is therapeutic and a pleasure for me. Really not even work, but I'm making money and it's successful doing it. Helping people train their dogs, which are a part of family. And I board them. I connect with my community, and I just continue to reach out. And I'm focusing on more of helping and being a leader and also being a follower, being a father. And I'm choosing to focus on living in the enjoyment and thankfulness for what I have, rather than being frustrated and drove up and angry for what I don't have. Because I learned that lesson in prison. That is one of the most important lessons that a person can learn, is that if you find yourself in a pit, the last thing you do is pick the shovel up and dig down further. And digging down further is constantly living in the frustration and just complaining. You got to step outside of that and start living in the solution. And that's what I'm doing right now.
Hi again, it's Molly. I hope you're enjoying the show. If you're a go-getter who wants to conquer overwhelm and sharpen your focus, I want to let you know about my new free webinar training, Purposeful Productivity. This free webinar gives you a framework to unlock more energy for what matters most. and to finally beat burnout. Head over to mollyfletcher.com/webinar to access this free training and my new life-changing energy management framework. That's mollyfletcher.com/webinar. Head over to mollyfletcher.com/webinar to access this free training and my new life-changing energy management framework. That's mollyfletcher.com/webinar. Maya, I got to ask you, I had Gino on the podcast, by the way. Your coach at UConn, of course. Give me a good Gino story. I mean, hit me up, right? I mean, one you can't forget, or maybe what's the most important thing you learned from him? I mean, get me inside of something fun.
I mean, yeah, Gino, he always had us laughing. And usually, whether it was he was talking about you or talking about somebody else, but he always found a way to make us laugh. But he always gave us the best lessons, like you said. He brought a sense of fun and but he also taught us real lessons, like I think as a leader, he was so invested in his players, and tried to find areas where they could improve and then give them the tools to do it. And so for me, I grew up as an only child, but I also had younger cousins. So I do have big sister tendencies, but I also moved around a good bit in middle school. And so my faith journey even it grew in a way where I was in a season of loneliness, and I got to really find that intimacy with God just alone, where it's like, I know who you are because I've experienced you in the loneliness.
Yeah.
But then there's a whole other side of how God has created us to experience him within community.
Yeah.
And doing that with each other. And so I didn't have as much of an experience outside of my family that I grew up with when I was 11 years old and younger to really have that experience of like community. And so Gino really challenged me. He didn't necessarily know all that about me at the time, but he knew like her leadership will be more impactful and her well-roundedness will be more impactful if she can learn how to connect better with people beyond the court. And so he really challenged me. He gave me some vision of like relationship building, because that's how you sustain winning culture, right? It's you build relationships, and people end up wanting to do it for each other. Like that's the most beautiful way to do it. And so I got to really grow and work on seeing my teammates and seeking them out and connecting with them beyond the court. And it just really made such a much more rich experience for me, getting to know them better and really forming those bonds even deeper and finding more joy and meaning in what we did. And I mean, it's such a profound lesson, right? It's like we can so easily move throughout our days in our Western culture, just very individualized, not connected, all these false senses of connection that aren't really connection. And it's like, I want to go into your room, sit on your bed and say, what's up?
Oh, nothing breaks my heart more than when you see a parent and a child at lunch together and they're both on their phones, or dates and people are on their phones, right? They're together, but they're not.
It's like, it's such a, and we're all susceptible to it, right? Like
Absolutely.
It's just, the minute we're uncomfortable or awkward, we can reach for it. And it's just this always accessible pacifier. And it's like, no, put it down. I will sit in this awkwardness and we will practice being awkward together until we find something to talk about. Or just sit in silence, and that's okay too. So, Gino was a big impact on me with leadership and relationships and helping me grow.
So Maya, Jonathan, what's next for you? I mean, you've got this little miracle, JJ. What a gift. I'm a mother too. My husband and I are parents. It's the greatest thing on the planet for sure.
Ain't it though? Woo! Lord.
Oh, it's a gift, Jonathan. I mean, and for you, I can't even imagine, right? I mean, there was moments in prison I can imagine where you thought, I'll never be able to be a father.
Yeah.
you didn't let those things come into your head and heart, it sounds like, which is amen to that. And look at you now, man. It's awesome to be a father to JJ and Maya. What's next for you two?
Well, we are doing a lot of what we've been doing these last few years, trying to create space to be well, and to heal and to build our home together, to be rooted in our community, which is a full-time job. It's easier when we're just kind of doing our own thing, right? We don't spend energy on people and
being connected.
It takes work to be in real relationship. And so we're just trying to be authentic and actually live out the things we're talking about. And so that when we do talk, it's coming from a place of authenticity of like, we've been living this way. So when we share things, it's coming from experience. And so we're trying to be connected to our community. But at the same time, we have moments and seasons where we kind of come above ground and share on a more, mass communication stage where we have the opportunity to speak to people that we don't know and share with them hope. So Win with Justice will continue to be something we work on here and there with providing help and tools and encouragement for people. We'll be sharing and spreading the word about our book for a while now.
Yeah.
And but yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's so wonderful. People listening need to go pick it up. Well, you guys have been incredibly generous with your time. I want to hit you with some rapid fire and then go swaddle that little miracle and give him some love.
Yeah.
So, Maya, describe Jonathan in one word.
Treasure.
Oh, wow.
Oh. All right. Jonathan, describe Maya in one word.
Precious.
What would you tell your younger self? What would each of you tell your younger self?
And I would tell him, man, it's going to be a point where you're going to go through the fire and you're going to want to give up. But keep going. It's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Keep going.
What about you, Maya?
Yeah, I would tell my younger self, everything is working for good.
Amen.
What brings you both the greatest joy?
The greatest joy is being connected with my wife. Because you married. Sometimes y'all don't see everything eye to eye, or it's just y'all just not feeling each other. One may be tired, and it just and it just happens. But just like for me, like if we ain't good, like everything else is out of whack.
Yep.
Like we even have to prioritize each other over our child. Like, cause if we're not good, that's going to impact him.
That's right.
Yeah. Wow. Profound. I don't know if I have anything else to say. The greatest joy. Yeah, I get the greatest joy when my people are rested, happy, and settled. Like when my home and the people in my home are like, that I have that immediate influence on are well, I'm well. Like, I just get so much gratification from seeing my people thrive. But I love music too, like in a more practical sense. Like, I really find a lot of joy in music. And when music is around, playing music, singing, like that gives me so much life too. So that's like... Yeah.
What you giving double? You ain't supposed to give one. You're supposed to just give one.
One of them was more like big picture. The other one was like practical.
Who wins a one-on-one in the driveway?
I mean, threes count more than two, so.
And clearly me, if I put my game, I'm gonna bag her down. I'm gonna wear her down. I'm hitting her elbow on that shot. Oops. Oops.
I'm gonna come over there and play ref. I'm gonna play ref on that deal. So the show is called Game Changers. So one last question. Who or what is a game changer who inspires you and why?
Game changer for me was U Flowers, the one and only.
Yeah,
Papa U Flowers, a.k.a. Big Papa. He was the first guy to believe in me and actually give me a sense of self and identity and show me, role model for me what it is to be a man, like a true, healthy, thriving man. Not I'm a tough guy or all the other stuff. He was just so raw and so real, and just breathed confidence in me. And like he really gave me my foundation and sense of self-identity as a man. Because that's one thing that like men, we strive for and we struggle for, is to have a sense of identity that's healthy and thriving. And he gave me that. And when he introduced me to that, everything else was in the rearview mirror, because like he gave me my hunger for the library, for knowledge. I know I wouldn't be here now if it wasn't for him, because I was lost and confused and didn't know which way to go. And he gave me direction. God blessed me with that man right there. And I will forever, eternally be grateful to him and his family. That's a game changer.
I bet. He is a game changer, no question. He's how you met your wife. He's how you are sitting where you are in so many ways, right, Jonathan?
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. I love it.
Okay, you just gonna bring the heat? I got you. I got you one better.
What you got?
I got you one better.
What you got?
Ooh, you're
what you
not
got?
ready for this.
What
You're
you
not
got?
ready for how I'm about
You
to
got what you got?
My game changer is the one, the only, Granny Florence Bell Pippins Spears.
That's a good one. What you know about
His
that?
granny is my game changer. His granny, I never got to meet her.
Oh.
But she literally saved his life and took him in when his parents could not. Raised him. She took in a whole bunch of babies when they just didn't have what they needed. But she loved Jonathan.
You gonna make me cry.
I know. I shouldn't probably have done this, because Granny is his girl. And she did her best and loved him. The biggest source of love that he had in his life, probably before meeting Papa.
Yeah.
And so if it wasn't for Granny, I would not have this life that I have. This wonderful husband, this wonderful child, this story, this purpose, this home. She is indeed a game changer. I haven't gotten to meet yet, but Papa and Granny are two most important people in our story.
I love it. Granny. Well, you've got an angel in heaven is what you have.
Yeah. She was praying for me. Yeah.
Amen.
She was praying for me.
Jonathan, Maya, this has been so impactful, and certainly grateful that, Maya, you use your platforms for such incredible good, and that Jonathan and you are holding hands now together, raising a beautiful son, and pouring into your community and your relationship. So thank you both for taking time. This was really special.
Thank you.
Yes.
For having us.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, as always, for listening to Game Changers with Molly Fletcher. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts. There you can listen to previous episodes and leave us a review, which helps other people find out about the show. This episode was edited and sound designed by the team at Sound On Studios. You can find out more about their work at soundonsoundoff.com. Check it out. For more about me, visit mollyfletcher.com. Until next time, stay curious and be bold.